What is up, everybody? Today we are doing the top 12 movies of Antoine Fuqua. I'm sure I probably butchered his name, but these are just my opinion. They're not based on fact or anything, but they go from least favorite to most favorite. Again, only my opinion, not set in stone. But number 12 would be Brooklyn's Finest. It's one of those kind of huge character dramas, kind of like Crash, with some skewed characters and stuff of that nature. I only thought this movie was average, which is why it's at the bottom of the list. But if the in last place for me is average, that's actually a pretty good. Because it doesn't mean that anything that was on this list is bad whatsoever. But again, I wasn't like super overwhelmed with how great this movie was. Next would be Infinite with Mark Wahlberg. Again, this is basically just on concept. I didn't think the movie was that great. Maybe a little bit better than Brooklyn's Finest just because of the concept. But Mark Wahlberg's definitely done better than this movie. But I'm sure that Paramount Plus, for a streaming exclusive movie, probably paid him a lot of money to do this. But eventually this movie did come out on physical media, and you can usually find it pretty cheap now. You can probably find it like the $5 bin at Walmart. But yeah, it's an okay movie. Then next we have Equalizer 2. This was his first sequel he's ever directed, and eventually he did Equalizer 3 as well. But to me, this one didn't hold a candle to the original. The original was just so perfect as far as its story goes. This one was a little bit more watered down, a sequel. Supporting characters weren't as good. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Comment down below if you have a different opinion on this movie. Then next we have Bait. This one was one of his earlier movies, but again, the concept was great. Jamie Foxx actually did really good in this movie. But very interesting movie, great cast, and for its time, this was pretty groundbreaking as far as, in my opinion, the characters and the way it was shot. He's probably one of the best directors as far as intensity and depth of characters, kind of like Tony Scott movies. He's probably the closest thing to Tony Scott that there is these days. Then next is a lot of people's favorite, and that is The Replacement Killers. I can see with the action in this, like if you're a John Wick type of fan, you'd love this movie and the kung fu and all that stuff. But to me, it's a little bit lower on this list just because, I didn't think it was as great as everyone else thought it was. But I'm not a huge Chow Yun-Fat fan, which might be why. But still a very solid action movie watch if you haven't seen it before. Then we have Shooter with Mark Wahlberg. This was way better than Infinite. The storyline and the characters and the hook, as far as at the end of the movie. When I said Mark Wahlberg's done better, I meant this movie. The premise of this movie was way, way better. Obviously more realistic because it wasn't sci-fi like the other one. But very fun watch. Mark Wahlberg's usually really good at these action movies, and this one's no exception. This one kind of set the pace for his other ones. And then we have Training Day, which Denzel Washington won an Oscar for. And that still surprises me to this day that he won for this movie. But yeah, skewed character drama when that whole kind of thing started, instead of being like the super clean cut, characters. But Ethan Hawke did great in this movie as well. David Ayer wrote this movie. So, you had two great film directors working on the same movie too, which is very rare. And obviously this was before David Ayer made it big. But still, it's awesome to look back in history and see things like that. Then we have The Magnificent Seven. I'm not usually a huge Westerns fan, but this one was fun. And the cast was really good. And to see a super intense, up-close kind of Western action movie was fun. Chris Pratt was the best character in this movie. But yeah, very, very fun. I haven't watched this movie in a while, so I'm actually going to have to go back and watch this one. And then we have The Equalizer. just the last 30 minutes alone of this movie makes this entire movie worth watching. It was probably the best scene I've ever seen as far as an ending. Right up there with John Wick. Fighting in a Home Depot and how he was killing people. It was hilarious. It had me going. Sometimes I'd just pop in this movie just to watch the last 30 minutes. That might just be me, though. Then we have Southpaw. This is probably one of the best sports dramas I've seen as far as boxing goes. I might say it's actually better than Rocky or Creed just because of the characters. The way it was shot, too, the boxing scenes were fantastic. But, I mean, this is something else right here. Motivational sports movies are always fun to watch. I wouldn't know if I would call this motivational because the characters are all pretty skewed, but still very, very, very good sports movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. I 100% recommend it. And then we have Olympus Has Fallen. This is so fun. This is probably the closest thing as far as a throwback to Die Hard. Cast is fun. There's a huge cast for this movie. Came out the same year as White House Down, and this was the better version of that movie, just because it had more of that old school vibe to it. Aaron Eckhart was a great president. Morgan Freeman was great in it. And the guy who played the villain, Ricky Yoon, was the bad guy in Die Another Day. James Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan. But yeah, just overall super intense, super interesting characters, and a complete throwback to old school action. So I'm happy that people still know how to make movies like this, which is why it's so high on my list. And then lastly, my very favorite one is Tears of the Sun with Bruce Willis. You want to talk about the king of old school action, that's Bruce Willis. And this movie shot that way. Yeah, and this is probably one of the, I guess you can say, the most emotional I've gotten at the end of a movie is this one. The way this movie ends it almost had me crying. It was such a touchy subject, and how they shot it and how you felt about what was going on throughout this entire movie was second to none. I wish more movies like this were made, but they're not huge money grabs, so studios usually aren't very interested in movies like this. This movie would probably be considered a flop these days. But I absolutely love this movie. I go back and watch this every year as well. I think this is Antoine Fuqua's best work, along with Bruce Willis. Why they haven't worked more together, I don't know. I don't know if they didn't get along, because I know online what I read back then, Bruce Willis wasn't the easiest person to work with. But absolutely love this movie. But that does it for this list. I'd like to hear your opinions on it, if you think movies should be swapped around or whatnot. But yeah, if you like content like this, please like and subscribe. Your support is much appreciated. I am also over on Letterboxd. The link to that is in the profile description of this channel. Otherwise, until next time, guys.